From now on, you'll cover your own rent. You're a burden, and we can't carry it any longer." That was my mom, at the kitchen counter, pouring coffee like she hadn't just shattered the ground beneath my feet. My dad sat there reading his paper, nodding absently. My sister scrolled on her phone, pretending not to hear. I didn't argue, didn't defend the 10 years I'd spent building a career they called pointless, the freelance contracts that kept their lights on more than once, the unpaid hours I'd invested in their family business. I just went upstairs. "My name is Avery Sloan, I'm 29. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when the family that calls you a burden finally feels the weight of your absence?" That night, I packed my things. No screaming. No scene. I folded my clothes, boxed up my books, unplugged the lamp they never noticed was mine. By dawn, my car was full. I left my keys on the counter with a note. "Thank you for everything. Good luck with the rent." I drove away before anyone woke up. No destination. Just out. The first 3 nights, I slept in a friend's spare room. Worked my laptop by a window overlooking the city. Watched the sun come up without the sound of someone calling me useless. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then, on the 4th morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Dad. "The rent is due. Where are you?" I stared at it, because in that one line, I could hear everything they'd never said out loud. They didn't just lose me. They lost the lifeline they'd been standing on without realizing it. I didn't reply to Dad's text. Instead, I opened my budgeting app, the one they didn't know existed. Every dollar I'd ever loaned, covered, or quietly paid off logged. I'd carried them for 3 years. Gas bills, grocery tabs, that family emergency in 2022, all me, while they told me to get a real job. I remembered sitting on the cold apartment floor once, working through a fever, because Mom said the Wi-Fi needed to stay on for my sister's Zoom interviews. I paid that bill with a card I was 3 weeks late on. Now, I wasn't late on anything. I was free, but they weren't. By Friday, I had 3 missed calls from Dad, 2 from Mom. Then a voicemail. "Sweetheart, we didn't mean to upset you. Rent's just due, and your sister's still looking for work." I stared at the wall. Not in anger. Not in pain. In clarity. They didn't want me. They wanted my stability. And now, the house was shaking. That evening, I booked a small room in a co-working space downtown. Not glamorous, but it had light, plants, and people who respected creative work. I finished a client's website, hit send, and watched $3,200 land in my account. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my sister. Not to be rude, but did you cancel the car insurance?" I smiled. Sure did. That's the first of many. Because if I was the burden, then it was time they learned how heavy I'd truly been. I didn't just cancel the car insurance. By Monday, the internet plan was gone too, the one under my name. The family Netflix, Spotify, Apple Cloud. All mine. All gone. Avery the burden had just unplugged the house. And still no apology. Instead, another text from Mom. "We're struggling because of your reaction. This is your family." Ah. The classic guilt card. But I wasn't buying it anymore. They weren't struggling because I walked away. They were struggling because I'd been silently propping up everything, like drywall hiding rot. I opened the shared Dropbox folder we used to manage bills. Years of my payments. Quiet contributions. Even that month I covered Dad's dentist work while skipping my own checkup. I exported the file. Labeled it. Open file folder, burden, XLSX. Then sent it to the family group chat. No caption. Just the truth. 2 hours later, silence. Then ding. My brother, the golden boy, the one who once laughed at my silly design gigs, messaged me privately. "Hey. Didn't realize you were doing all that. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen. Was this remorse or strategy? I replied, "Sure. But I'm no longer accepting emotional payment as currency. If you want my time, you'll treat it like it costs something." Because for the first time, my work, my presence did have value. And if they wanted even a conversation, they'd have to pay for it. 3 days passed. Not a word from my parents. No apology. No explanation. Not even the decency of silence. Just passive-aggressive status updates from Mom about her migraine getting worse, and Dad's blood pressure acting up again. But I didn't flinch. I didn't call. I focused on me. My client list was growing. One of my designs, a branding package I'd nearly declined while covering their rent, had just landed in a national campaign. My name wasn't on the billboards, but it was in the invoice. Avery Dane Design, paid in full. The money I used to pour into family bills? Now it went toward me. Books. Therapy. Finally fixing the brakes on my old car. Finally buying real health insurance. Small things that felt like freedom. Then a knock. Not a call. Not a text. A knock. I peeked through the curtain. Dad. Alone. In his hand, a brown envelope. He looked old. Older than 3 weeks ago. I opened the door without a word. He didn't say much either. Just handed me the envelope and muttered, "Your mother's not doing well." Inside, an itemized list. Every dollar I'd ever contributed. Dates. Amounts. Even the utilities. At the bottom, scrawled in Mom's handwriting. "We didn't realize you carried us. We're ashamed. We're sorry." There was no request. No manipulation. But for the first time in my life, it sounded like truth. I stared at the letter in my hands long after Dad left. A ledger of guilt, written too late, but somehow not late enough to be ignored. But this wasn't about him, or even my mom. This was about Marla, my older sister, the golden one, the one who once told me my career was arts and crafts with a keyboard, who laughed when I bought secondhand dresses and mocked me for driving a 2005 Honda. The same Marla who now posted online about manifesting abundance from her waterfront condo, bought, of course, by my parents' savings. Savings that I had protected, preserved, built. And now, it was Marla's turn to face silence. I sent no messages. No angry calls. Just opened my laptop and clicked cancel on the monthly autopay tied to her insurance. That night, her text came through. "Marla, hey, my car insurance lapsed. I'm on a road trip. Can you fix this?" I let it sit unread. Then another. "It's literally dangerous. I'll pay you back." Then a voice note. Fake casual, sugary. "Hey bestie sis, can you help out? Mom said you're doing well." I exhaled long, slow. Then typed. "I've decided to carry only what's mine. That doesn't include your car, your rent, or your emotional overdraft." No reply. But on Facebook, her latest post was gone. In its place, a blurry image of a hotel bed with a caption. "Sometimes, you really find out who's family and who's just blood." Exactly. The doorbell rang just before noon. I knew who it was. I opened it to find Marla on my porch, sunglasses too large, lips too tight. Her coat was thrown over what looked like pajamas, and her hair was pulled back like she'd sprinted through a storm of panic. "Avery," she said, trying to sound firm, but her voice cracked. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. Not out of kindness, just curiosity. She paced into my kitchen like it still belonged to her memories. Then turned. "I didn't know they cut you off," she blurted. "If I had, I would have helped." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't know? You were there, Marla. You laughed when they called me a burden." Her silence was loud. She started. "I'm in a tight spot right now. If I lose my car, I can't get to work, and my boss already said." I held up a hand. "You have a job?" I asked, genuinely surprised. Her lips twitched. "Part-time. Remote. Influencer outreach." Ah. Marla was playing entrepreneur with no safety net now. The same one I'd quietly kept beneath her for years. "So, you want the insurance reinstated?" I said, sipping tea. She nodded eagerly. "I can do that," I smiled. Relief washed across her face. "Thank you." I knew. "But it'll come with a bill. Monthly. Like mine did. Remember?" Her smile shattered. "You're joking." I leaned forward. "You told me I was dead weight, Marla. Now I'm charging rent for the rope you want to climb." Her eyes narrowed. But she didn't argue, just turned and left, slower than she arrived. I watched through the window as she sat in her car, not starting it. Some debts aren't financial. But now, they're finally on the ledger. The knock came just as the sun dipped behind the neighbor's fence.
I didn't have to check. It was always her timing.
Mom stood at the door holding a casserole dish. "Avery," she said gently, "I thought you might like some of your favorite." I stared at the dish. Tuna bake. Her signature guilt delivery system. I stepped aside wordlessly. She sat on my couch like it was an altar she hadn't visited in years. "You've been distant," she said, eyes scanning the photos on my shelves, the ones without her in them. "I've been paying rent," I replied, pouring tea, but not offering her any. She cleared her throat. I spoke to your father. We may have overreacted. You know how stress clouds things. We didn't mean it." I waited. "We miss you. It's not the same without your laughter in the house." There it was, the softening plea. Then came the real reason. "Your sister's in a tight spot. The bank's calling. And, since you already helped with her down payment, we thought maybe you could just—" I held up one finger.
"No."
She blinked. I didn't finish. "You didn't have to." She looked hurt. I let her. "You raised me to believe family was everything," I said. "But when I needed you for respect, for belief, I was just a burden. Now you miss my laughter because the echo of yours has gone quiet." Silence. She stood, leaving the casserole on the table like a peace offering. "We're still your family." I walked her to the door. "Then act like it, not just when your favorites fail." As she stepped off the porch, I picked up the dish and placed it in the fridge. Not out of forgiveness. Out of hunger. Because I still take care of myself. A week later, the silence was louder than the years of noise. No texts. No urgent calls. No forwarded bills disguised as family updates.
Just stillness.
I stood at the window of my apartment, sunlight washing over the framed rejection letter from a gallery that once told me my art had no real-world value. I'd hung it like a trophy, because now that same gallery was requesting a solo show. It was poetic, really. The day my rent was due, the first I hadn't paid into the family account, I sat with my cup of tea, opened my laptop, and made one final transfer. But not to them.
To me.
A new savings account. One with no shared access. No guilt. Just growth. That night, a letter arrived. Not a text. Not an email. A handwritten letter from my father. "Avery, we misjudged you. We mocked the only daughter who never asked for anything and gave everything. We thought strength meant money. But you showed us it meant walking away." No apology. But it was close. I didn't cry. I just folded the letter and tucked it beside the rent receipt, my proof that I wasn't a burden. They were. I stepped outside, locked my door, and walked 2 blocks to a small community art class I had secretly started teaching. There were 12 students. 3 had brought parents. The youngest one, maybe 9, asked, "Did your family come too?" I smiled.
No.
But I did. And for once, that was enough. Back home, I pulled the casserole from the fridge, reheated it, and ate it slowly. Every bite a memory. Every bite a farewell. Because I no longer needed their approval. I had built something better. Myself.